Welcome to Shazza's Laughter Hour here at Radio Northern Beaches 90.3 or 88.7 FM, or you can tune in live on rnb.org.au. And today I have a very special guest. It is Julia Wilson.
Yay! I'm my own clapping machine.
Yeah, woo! We have the clapping machine.
Thank you for having me on. I'm very, very touched.
You're very welcome, Julia. Julia is a local Northern Beaches stand-up comedian. She's also a part-time, she does acting.
I do.
Sometimes, as we all do, once in a blue moon. She's a carer to her father, Bob, who's a famous man.
He's only famous on Facebook, though.
Well, his antics and his survival is a miracle to everyone.
Yeah, I've been keeping like a diary type thing online, like a Facebook. This is what we did today, and this is what he's at, and he's got more of a following than I'll ever have, I think.
Yeah, no, Bob is
I tour around the world doing comedy, and I've got a couple of followers, and the dad starts to heroically beat cancer, and all of a sudden the whole world is Team B.O.B.
Yeah. He's a remarkable man, Bob.
He's a pretty good dude.
And you also co-own Desire Books and Records at Manly.
Yes, which is such a wonderful shop. I quite love it. We actually only bought it because there was a chance it would close down if we didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up going, one day I'll own a bookshop. But I love the bookshop, and I didn't want it to be sold and turn into a coffee shop. And I don't mean like a bookshop with a coffee shop in it. The person most likely to buy it was going to tear the whole thing out and make it into a coffee shop. And I went, no! So myself and 4 mates bought it.
Yeah.
That's what we did, and we love it.
Yes, because it's in prime real estate just off the main strip of Manly,
Yeah,
isn't
it's just in Whistler Street in Manly, and it's this gorgeous little shop, which after hours becomes a little performing space where we have open mic nights, and coming up on the 22nd of March we have an author, Dorothy Johnson, is launching her book, doing some signings and stuff like that.
So you're making use of the space in a wonderful way.
It's lovely as a little community aspect. We do singing nights here and poetry nights. And
when are they, Julia? What nights do they happen on?
The open mic night is the last Tuesday of every month.
Yeah.
On the first Tuesday of every month we have a health and wellbeing night where there's a lady who has a shop just near us called Joe's Herbadashery, and she's got all herbs and teas and stuff like that.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
So she hosts a night where different people come along, be it life coaches or psychologists or people who specialise in herbs or different kind of remedies or massage or overall well-being or just essentially about health, which is lots of fun.
Yeah. So you're making use of the space, as well as that there are actual books in here.
Yeah, that's right. And we sell books during the day.
Yay.
Books and records. It's quite lovely.
Books and records.
Yeah, it's every day that I work in the shop, which isn't as often as I'd like to, you open the door and walk in, and just the smell of the old books is lovely. It just makes me happy. I'm in my happy place when I'm there.
It's kind of a comforting smell, isn't it?
It totally is. Like there's an actual scientific name for it, people who are comforted by the smell of old books, but I get that en masse. Like, it's just gorgeous. I love opening up and walking and going, I'm home.
Oh, old books, relief from the stresses of life smell.
Yeah, and looking after Dad and gigging can be a bit stressful.
Yeah.
There are some days where I've taken Dad for an appointment and we've ended up being at Royal North Shore for 10, 12, sometimes 14 hours, and then I've got to leg it straight off to a gig.
Oh, dear.
And just be in a headspace of, you know, you've seen my comedy, I'm quite rude and dirty. So just go from like this very apathetic and sympathetic and compassionate daughter to the big burly chick you see on stage who probably swears too much and drinks too much beer.
But it's also the energy that's required as a performer.
Yeah, that definitely takes it out of you. Like that definitely, you go from the energy required to be in a hospital and be dealing with doctors and nurses and specialists and pain management teams and all sorts of, you know, there's always, Dad is rarely under the care of just one person. There's usually 3 or 4 teams involved, and just negotiating your way through that little political landscape is a skill unto itself. So that takes a bit of energy out of you. And then you rock up to a gig and you're like, right, Control, Alt, Delete, reset.
Yeah. Who am I now? Yep. And can you snap that together?
Luckily I can. I had my 16th anniversary of comedy last week.
Wow, congratulations. Round of applause, everyone. Woo.
So, after 16 years, I can just go, right, it's showtime, let's do this.
Yeah.
But I would hate to be a new comic starting out. I probably wouldn't have the energy to do both, but luckily.
No.
Luckily I do.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
You know, apart from the high blood pressure.
We won't talk about that. So are you managing the high blood pressure?
Yeah,
What do you kind of do to manage your stress levels?
I do as much exercise as I can. That's where I really find it's healthy for me.
Mm-hmm.
I really love alcohol, but I try not to lean too heavily on it because there's nothing. I can't tell you how after a really stressful day at the hospital, coming home and just having too many beers is very tempting.
Yeah.
So I have to keep check of that because that's very easy to do.
Yeah.
But I play full contact American football.
That's very exciting.
Which
That's another thing.
I love, but just tore my ACL 12 weeks ago. So I don't know if I'll be playing this season. This is the first. So I play for New South Wales as well as the Northwestern Phoenix, which are a team based out of Parramatta or Dundas.
Yeah.
And even though we have a local Northern Beaches team, which if you're listening to this, they're an amazing team and you should definitely go play for them.
Yep.
I started to play for the Phoenix in the first season of gridiron at all. And so because I started to play for them, I decided, when other teams started to come in, I couldn't just swap teams. So
yeah,
I've played 5 years with them. And I play for New South Wales, and they've just started training the New South Wales team to go into the next national comp. And it's the first year I'm not playing, and it's upsetting, which means I'll hand over the captaincy to someone else.
No, not the captaincy.
Yeah, which means I won't be able to call myself the captain of New South Wales anymore.
Oh, but you'll still be their spiritual leader.
Shaz makes reference to that. Sharon's been very supportive. Haven't you, mate?
I have. I'm a good mate.
You come out to 1 million games and came out to my first grand final.
That was very exciting. So tell the listeners, Julia, what happened that year? It was a couple of years ago. What year was that?
That was 2013.
And that was the first year of
It was the first year that women were playing gridiron in New South Wales.
The first year, yeah.
And it was pretty intense. I'd never played before. I'd actually never even watched a whole game before I started to play, but it really suited me. I moved back to Australia to look after Dad when he was diagnosed, and I went, I have been on the road for 10 years. What am I going to do? I've done lots of, to keep fit. I go to the gym, and when you're on the road, you're on your own. So you do a lot of, solo stuff. You can go and join a class here and there, but you don't play team sports because you're never in one place long enough.
No, that's right. You can't.
So I moved back to Sydney when Dad got sick, and I went, okay, now I'm home. What do? I've got this. I'm going to sleep in the same bed every night. This is such a weird concept to me. So I started looking around, and I was watching a TV show, and it was about gridiron, and I went, oh, that's such a sense of, what a sensible way. Yeah, because you get the physical aggression out, but it's also quite intellectual. So because people think it's just, people either think it's so rough because they see how hard we hit each other, or you get people who are like, yeah, but you got pads and helmets, so you're obviously soft. But, then you get people like me who use their helmet to knock people over.
Yeah.
I had to work out how I was going to phrase that one.
Yes.
So the first year, I played for the Northwestern Phoenix, and we started to do quite well, and then we had a couple of injuries, as you do every season, and then we weren't quite sure how we were going to go. Anyway, we made it to the grand final, and you came out to watch the grand final.
I did. It was a great thrill to sit there.
You're a legend.
In the stadium.
A bloody good mate.
The roar of the crowd.
It was pretty intense, wasn't it?
And a lot of attractive men from the men's team with their tight little buttocks.
Yeah, there is
their padding.
Yeah, we do a lot of squats and deadlifts, which are great for
squat.
which are great for the butt area.
Yes, they are.
Which even now, it's a bit frustrating with a dodgy knee at the moment that when I'm doing weights, I can't do all the really heavy weights.
Can you do it like a reverse squat where you're just lying on your back and
I'm pretty sure I could.
in the air.
I would be very comfortable lying down and doing not much.
Yeah. Put some books on your feet.
It's such a luxury to just sit still.
Yeah, I know.
Because you're running from one thing to another. The bookshop is amazing and takes up a bit of time. Dad is probably my best friend in the whole world and takes up quite a lot of time, but not much energy.
Yeah.
Comedy is my favourite thing in the world to do for a job and takes up a bit of time and a bit of energy. Doing a uni degree in psychology takes up a bit of time and a lot of energy. I'm always running from one thing to another, which I am aware is quite exhausting and probably doesn't help the high blood pressure. So this year I've tried to really be sensible about not procrastinating, which is my biggest problem, is that I'll go, right, time management wise, I need to do this, that, and that. And then I sit down to do the first this or that, and kind of go, oh, just check Facebook, or I'll just
Oh, no, it can
my,
be distracted,
yeah,
can't it?
my emails really need cleaning out. Or
Oh.
my best procrastination was I went to a friend's place to use their Wi-Fi because my house is quite busy and there's really nowhere for me to sit quietly and do uni work. So I went to a mate of mine's house because they're all, the kids are all at school during the day and the mum and dad are out at work during the day. So I went to their place and just sat quietly using their Wi-Fi. And I thought, I'll just make a cup of tea. Just make a cup of tea before I really get stuck into this essay. So I went to make a cup of tea and I was like, oh, I might just try putting a couple of herbs into this tea.
Oh.
Maybe some cinnamon or and I opened the spice drawer and went, oh, there's so many crumbs and there's toast crumbs in the spice drawer. I might just go and grab the vacuum and just give this. Yeah, so that's the
delaying what you were there for.
That is
we all do that.
Best level of procrastination. I have found myself vacuuming a friend's spice drawer.
Yeah.
Instead of writing an essay on clinical psychology. That's when you know that you're a grade 1 procrastinator.
Yeah.
So yeah, this year I'm just trying to be better with that. Like be better with time management, stick to it, don't be late, be on time.
Yeah.
Be better with my use of time and don't faff about, just get it done and get out of there. Rather than, because I find if I set the time aside and then I faff about, well then the thing doesn't get done and I've just chewed up 2 hours. So it's like, come on. And also scheduling in time to just sit still. It's really really important.
Because most people are so on all the time, rushing from things and doing everything and trying to make it work, and there's no time to just sit and relax and be quiet.
Yeah.
Which is very good for our health and our immune system.
And also
and our emotional well-being too.
As a creative, your brain needs to be able to have some downtime.
Yeah.
Otherwise you don't write new stuff.
Do what you need to do so that you're not always stressed out and doing something at the last minute under pressure, which is what we often do.
Well, unfortunately, whilst I completely agree with you, unfortunately, when it comes to me writing an essay, if I write the essay 3 weeks before the due date, it's actually really ordinary.
Oh, okay.
But if I write the essay the day it's due...
Oh, my goodness.
I know.
You pump it out.
I do, and the words come together perfectly.
Oh, wow.
And a girlfriend of mine, Catherine Bendel, a girlfriend of ours, who's another comedian and storyteller, she said to me, we did a comedy festival show together a couple of years ago, and she said to me, I've watched you work on stage, and now I've worked with you writing a show, and I believe you can't fire until it's showtime. You're one of those people who you just can't, because you've been a performer for so long, the good stuff doesn't come out until the lights are on and the audience is in front of you. She said, I reckon that's why you're having trouble sitting down to write these essays and things like that until it's time, until it's like,
it's showtime. It's now or never. Yeah, that's it. It's
so what I might need to do is get my lecturer to tell me that my due date is a day before it's actually due, because I literally submit it 1 minute before it's due. I'm not even exaggerating about that. So it would be lovely if I then had another 6 hours to do another edit and another and it's hilarious when I'm helping my little nieces and nephews with their with their homework. I'm like, come on, preparation is the key to everything.
Oh, no.
You know what I mean? It's like, thank God they don't go, when's your essay due, Julia?
When do you do it?
Yeah, exactly, thank God. There's
a
whole lot of do as I say, not as I do, because I am a massive faffer.
But can you calm down after that, after you've done an essay or a show? How do you unwind from all that pressure?
I just...
Do you have a technique?
I was just asked this the other day by a mate of mine who's a professional therapist, who said, so what do you do when it's all over? And I'm like, I go to bed. Like, literally, I submit the essay, I close up my laptop, and I have a cup of tea and I go to bed. I come home from a show, I have a cup of tea and go to bed. Like, I don't have that. Early days, I had a big wind down from a big show.
Yeah.
But these days, it's like saying to a hairdresser, so what do you do when you finished cutting hair for 8 hours? You go home.
It's just normal.
You just stop.
Yeah.
So I think that's because, my body has been used to producing the adrenaline and using the adrenaline and producing the adrenaline and using the adrenaline. So once it's done, it's done. I definitely find if I go on tour, there's a couple of days of winding down, because when you're on tour, you wake up, you have to check out of the hotel at 10 o'clock every morning, whatever hotel it is. Wake up, check out.
And go.
Get in the van or the car and you drive to the next place, and then you set up and you do sound check, and then you go and have a couple of hours to yourself. And you go and do the show, then you have a beer after the show with whoever, normally it's in a pub or something like that, so there are people hanging around to sort of say good day to the comedians.
Yeah.
And then you go back to the hotel, and then you wake up the next morning, so it's kind of Groundhog Day for sort of 6 weeks at a time. But with Dad being sick for the last couple of years, I haven't done The longest tour I've done in the last couple of years has probably only been 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
But, yeah, when you get home, you do go, oh, yeah, that's right. Normal sleep patterns, food that isn't road food, because you forget the luxury of having a kitchen to make breakfast in and somewhere to prepare your lunch to take with you.
Yeah.
Whereas
just making a nice cup of coffee at home in your favourite mug.
Yes.
Little things like that.
You know what? When I go on tour, I take my favourite cup with me because I'm a massive tea drinker. I take my little teacup with me because I like to have something familiar from home.
Yeah. That's a good idea, isn't it?
Well, yeah, you forget that when you're on the road, it's hotel breakfast or takeaway breakfast. I won't do McDonald's brekkies and stuff like that. I won't do that's actually, I'm like, come on, we can at least
draw the line somewhere.
Yeah, I can at least stop at a cafe and have something that someone cooked.
Yes.
That didn't come out of a box.
Yeah, with less carbohydrate and preservatives.
Yeah. And then lunch, you're on the road. Dinner, you're usually the venue is feeding you, so you kind of forget. After a while, you start to crave, like, oh, man, I'd love some home-cooked broccoli.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny, that, isn't it?
Smash some Brussels sprouts.
Yeah. Yeah, you enjoy all that far more when you're away from it. I guess we appreciate things a lot more when we miss them or we don't have them around.
Yeah. I found myself...
can be anything.
When Dad was quite sick, what are we now, 2018? 2017 was like trying to patch him up. 2016, he had 2 different rounds of radiation for 2 different cancers.
Yeah.
Not to mention, I think somewhere in the vicinity of 12 or 14 surgeries. So I was at Royal North Shore all the time, and I got to learn the cafeteria's cycle of what food they would make and what was good. You're like, oh, steer clear of that. Oh, the Thai green curry's great. Oh, I got to learn where the good coffee was within the hospital. There's like 5 different little kiosks.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I got to learn the good one. I got to learn the names of the people there.
Mm.
And even now, because we're still back at the hospital all the time, but just for maintenance stuff,
yeah.
The guy in my favourite little coffee kiosk is like, hey, how are you, Flat White? Where's Soy Cap 2 Sugars? Where is he? I haven't seen him. Is he all right? It's not Bob and Julia. I'm Flat White and Dad's Soy Cap 2 Sugars.
Oh, that's
and Dad kind of rocked up the other day as I was ordering and he goes, oh, Soy Cap, you look great. And Dad's like, why is this man calling me Soy Cap? What's going on?
I've seen photos on Facebook of you having coffees at North Shore Hospital.
Mm. Yeah, Dad, with one of the surgeries, they had to sever the facial nerve and his face has dropped a bit.
Oh, okay.
And he gets a little bit sensitive about how many photos I was putting on Facebook of him. Yeah. So now I just put photos of the coffees that we're having. Of the
coffee cup.
Yeah, just to
mark the occasion.
Yeah, and not so much as it's definitely, I don't do any of my posts as poor us, look how often we're here, but there's a lot of my friends are going through this either personally for themselves or with a family member.
Yeah.
And Dad and I, whilst it's a horrible, cancer's horrible.
Yeah.
We actually have a lot of fun when we're going to the appointments.
Yeah.
We giggle all the way on the way in the car, and my dad is an amazing storyteller.
Oh, yes.
And we sit down, like when we're in the car or when we're in appointments, some of the stories he comes out with I've never heard before, and some of them I've heard 700 times before.
Yeah.
But some of them I'm like, what?
Because your dad used to be a sports journalist, didn't he?
Yeah, he was a sports
journalist. In the heyday
journo.
of sports.
Yeah.
Aussie sports.
And he also played... rugby league and rugby union. Rugby league, he played first grade. Rugby union, he played first grade. He was a national champ in surf lifesaving competitions.
Wow.
He's played golf to a fairly elite level. Like he's got all these stories, and he's 86 and he's dealing with a lot of different illnesses, but not one of those details is gone. He outthinks me every day. He remembers every bloody doctor's name, and I'm like, oh yeah, the doctor with the guy with the thing. Remember the lady that had the... And I got nothing. And Dad remembers everyone's name, everyone's profession.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's hilarious. And it always makes me laugh especially because of the face drop. And it just... Now it kind of looks like he might have had a stroke or he might have had surgery on his face. You're not quite sure.
Yeah.
You can tell that something's happened. But people quite often, when they're first meeting him, all of a sudden start to talk to him a little bit like this. And I just see him go... Crucify them.
Yeah, that's it.
He really puts them through the ringer. But it's definitely something I've noticed at the hospital that he, were I not to be there, people start to treat him a little bit like, oh, he's a little old man on his way out.
Let's be nice to him, poor old thing. Would you like a cup of tea?
Yeah, and maybe not getting all of the treatments he would be getting because there's a lot of different. There's a lot of different departments within every hospital. There's also a lot of different programs that are available to people who are sick or for their carers.
Yeah.
And I think if the majority of people, because they see so many patients, if you see a little old person who's on their way out, probably don't work as hard as if you see like a 30-year-old person who's still
That's
got the
it.
will to live. So when I'm there, I'm like, please don't let his age fool you. This guy is as vibrant as hell. And I always get him, they always like name, date of birth. And I go, go on, Dad, do your party trick. Tell him your MRN, your medical registration number, which is a hospital-specific number, and he busts it out. And that every single time you see them go, oh, okay, right, yep, you're pretty switched on.
Oh, yeah,
yep.
yeah,
and
yeah.
It just,
He's still with it.
yeah, and then bang, their whole demeanour changes, and all of a sudden it's like, right, let's get you well and let's get you out of here.
Yeah, that's it.
Which I guess there gets to a point where you do go, we just sort of have to manage your exit. We have to sort of help you have the most comfortable death that you can have. But Dad's like, wait, not even there yet. Not even close to being
there's
ready.
no white light calling me just yet.
It's hilarious. Whenever I drop him off, I drop him off for. I obviously take him to all these appointments and all these surgeries, but he won't even let me walk him into the surgery anymore. Like, he makes me drop him off out the front of the hospital because he's like, don't worry, don't park the car and come all the way in here. I'm going to be asleep in 45 minutes. Don't worry about it. Rightio, Dad. So when he gets out of the car, I always go, and if you see a white light, stay away from it. And I laugh and he laughs. And a couple of times nurses that are walking by have heard us, and they just look at us like, we're like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, you don't always assume.
Talk about death so flippantly.
Yeah,
You're like, well,
associate humour and hospital treatment.
Yeah. But really,
aging.
the two of us laugh
that's
constantly.
brilliant.
So we have a very good relationship.
Yeah.
And I think if we didn't get along so well, I think caring for him would be quite difficult.
It would be a hard slog.
But it's actually quite lovely to be spending these last couple of years with him because he's 86 with two different kinds of cancer, diabetes and heart disease. We're aware of the fact that he's on a bit of a timer.
Yeah.
So, but it's lovely to be able to spend this part of his life with him because he's quite reflective and he is hilarious.
Yes, he is. He's a very funny man.
So I just sit back and go, this is great.
Yeah.
You know, whilst it's not a wonderful reason that we're spending so much time together,
at least
we
you
are
have that
spending
time.
this time together. And
making the most of it.
Yeah, exactly. Making the most of like a, fairly sad situation.
Yeah.
But I think of all my friends that have lost family members very quickly, Dad's got heart disease. He could drop of a heart attack any time. And then you don't get to have all the conversations that you want to have. You don't get to have all the...
There'll be no regrets. There'll be nothing you'll have not said, things you'll not know.
No, there was one year where the doctors 3 different times said, look, we don't think he's going to make it through the night. So we've had the big conversations. And now I kind of imagine what it's going to be like when he finally goes, where it's going to be him going, well, I've said all this.
Look at the watch.
Better trot off then. I've told you I love you. I've told you I'm proud of you. I've told you I'm grateful for everything you've done. And what's left?
Told you all the family history.
Yeah, exactly. There's no more family
secrets. Told you all my stories about Nuke and all the other tennis players and hotel rooms. And
I kind of feel, I've had friends lose family members very quickly, and you're like, oh, you didn't get to have that. You didn't get to have the goodbye.
I don't even have a father that's around. At least you've...
I've got an amazing...
Like myself.
I like that.
Yeah. So
you came to our place for Christmas.
I did.
Christmas lunch.
It was delightful.
And it was lovely to have Dad busting out because he's got like his top 5 stories. He loves
his top 5.
And I don't think if you asked him, he wouldn't say that he has a top 5. But I'm like, oh, you're busting out one of the good ones now. He's
bringing out the Nuke stories. It's John Newcombe for anyone that is under 30. One of our famous Australian tennis players.
Yeah. So Dad
moustache.
Dad spent a lot of time with the tennis and golf. World.
And his brilliant story of Bob Hope.
Oh, yeah.
The Bob Hope story was amazing.
See, because I've heard that story so much, which is where Dad played golf with Bob Hope and kind of showed him around Sydney, and they became quite good friends. And then when Mr. Hope went back to America, sent Dad a thank you very much package of a couple of glasses and a personalised note.
Yeah.
I didn't think anyone knew who Bob Hope even was anymore, but I was really impressed that both you and Christian, our other mate that came for Christmas lunch, were like, what, really? Oh, my God. It was really quite lovely.
I think anyone that's been involved in comedy in any era would recognise Bob Hope.
Yeah.
And when I was in San Diego in the US a couple of years ago, I went to where they have a tribute to Bob Hope. It's like all these pewter statues, and Bob Hope is in the middle of it, and it's actual recording of him. I think it was in Korea during the Korean War, and he's doing stand-up for the troops.
Yeah, he was amazing. Like, this is, we hear about comedians in our era going to Afghanistan and stuff like that. And it's, whilst, people like Limo and Chris Franklin have told me stories about there being shelling near where they were, that's nothing compared to what,
Oh, no.
Bob Hope was actually in quite a lot of danger. That was a very big deal for him to go. And he was also world famous. Like
That's
in terms of making yourself a target, he was really.
He was a big target, and he didn't really have to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
He was a busy guy.
Yeah, whereas our comedian mates are. Well, I
got
love
a bit of downtime sometimes.
I was going to say I love those guys, but they're, you know, no one knows who they are.
No one's really going to come in and capture them and ask for $1 million ransom.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm trying to picture what you'd ask for. We've captured Julia Wilson. Bring us a case of Corona and a hamburger, or she gets it. Like, I can't even imagine what
would be your price? Who knows?
What would be yours? What do you reckon your price would be?
Oh, who knows? Yeah,
packet of Tim Tams and a
double coated Tim Tams and yes, maybe publishing contract. Part on Home and Away.
The blonde gets it.
Oh, the blonde gets it. Get us a part on Home and Away. We want to go and work at Palm Beach every day.
It's interesting though, because I used to, before Dad got sick, I toured the world. I'd spend 3 months in Australia, a month in Brisbane, a month in Sydney, and a month in Victoria and Melbourne, and then I would bugger off to South Africa, and I would gig it all around South Africa for a month.
Oh, South Africa.
And then Cape Town, Joburg, Durban.
Yeah,
pretty full on.
Yeah.
And then I would take off to the UK and I would gig there for 6 months, and then I'd do Canada on my way home. And it was I really enjoyed it. It was a great lifestyle. But living out of a suitcase, I did that for a lot of years. You start to get really kind of, I never ever wanted to do, and I never want to do anything where I forget how lucky I am to be where I am at that time.
Yeah.
Like, I never want the polish to wear off so much that I'm like, ugh, another beautiful sunrise. Ugh, look at me performing in another foreign country. Like And I was starting to get to the point where it was just another day at the office, and I've never wanted to look at comedy like that.
Yeah.
I've never wanted to look at travelling like that. So when I came back to Australia, and I had a little bit of a break just doing, and when I say a break, then I just was touring Australia, and then Dad got sick and I moved back to Sydney. It's kind of, whilst it was really traumatic the first year, like that was pretty stressful the first year, all these other opportunities have opened up to me.
Yeah.
I'm doing more acting stuff. I'm doing, the bookshop. I'm writing more. I'm doing more storytelling stuff. Things that, because I hadn't stayed in Sydney for very long ever, and once I started performing, I'm like, oh my God, there's this whole industry in my own hometown that I hadn't really noticed. So I've been super lucky that I get to work on these little projects. Like there's Jenny McGregor is an amazing guitarist and piano player. She's local, and I'm sure
she's a Northern Beaches person.
Yeah, I'm sure she's been on Radio Northern Beaches a bunch of times.
I'll have to have her back again.
So one of our friends, Lou Pollard, who is a clown doctor, sent me a message one time saying, hey, you guys do an open mic night at the shop for all different kinds of performing arts. So we do, open mic sounds like we just do comedy, but we do storytelling and poetry and music and performance art and like any kind of performance you can think of. We're all welcome to come along and perform.
Yeah.
So Lou sent me a message and said, hey, a girlfriend of mine, Jenny, has written a few songs and she'd like to get up and perform them. If she turns up tonight, she doesn't know anybody there, can you take her under your wing? And I was like, of course. Of course I'll, any friend of yours is a friend of mine, of course I'll look after her. But she didn't turn up. Which happens a lot, at an open mic night, no one's getting paid. We're all doing it, including us opening the shop up. We're all doing it for the love of it. There's no money in it.
No.
But it's about creating a little community space and somewhere where people can, do their creative stuff.
Not as frequent as when we were much younger.
Yeah.
So
when we first started out, there was
bands.
There were comedy nights everywhere. There were band nights everywhere. Every cafe had some songwriter they believed in performing there on a Thursday night.
Live music.
Yeah, and there's just not as much, because I was a bouncer for a long time. As you know, I was 10 years being a bouncer and bodyguard. And
if you need a bodyguard, anyone,
need a bodyguard.
Julia Wilson is
amazing
at the
CPR.
best one. She knows all of that. Yeah.
So I was a bouncer on the Northern Beaches for ages. And I did the live venues. I did the Sands at Narrabeen and the Fish Shows at Manly.
Oh, gee.
The amount of live bands that came through there who were brilliant.
Yeah.
I love live music, and it's something I really miss these days. There's just not as many. I mean, there were still a couple around, but there's just not as many, and certainly not to the size that we used to, we used to pack 1 billion people into into the Sands. I'm trying to think of. I think the licensing. I think we're allowed to have 800 people in there.
Yeah.
And we regularly sold out. Like and big bands would come along, and you would just be, it was phenomenal. I really enjoyed it.
And how did you get into bouncing, Julia? Because it seems like it's a whole world away from what you're doing now. So it's not something a lot of ladies do.
I got into. It was funny. There was a pub down in Mona Vale, which is. It's a historical building, but it's not even a pub anymore. I think it's a restaurant now. It used to be called the Rock Lily. And a mate of mine was a DJ there, and I was doing a hospitality course during the day. And he said, hey, you've got your security license. And I just turned 18 and I just got my security license.
Yeah.
Because when I turned 18, I decided to get every license I could and then see what kind of work was around. So I got a truck license, a bus license, a security license, a forklift license. I got my first aid certificate. I got everything.
You got it covered.
I did, and I was like, I just want to see because I figured I wanted everything to be on the table. I didn't want anything to be off limits.
Yeah.
So he said, you got your security license? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, someone's been kicking a hole in the wall at the club that I work at every Friday night, and then we have to repatch it so we can open again on Saturday night. We have to do it really quickly. Really? But they've done it 3 weekends in a row, and I just need someone to stand at the end of the bar and look like a punter and catch them. That's all I need. And so,
do they kick the hole while it's still open?
Yeah, while all the music's loud and everyone's around and
it's busy, so you don't expect someone to just kick a hole in the walls. You're not looking for it.
Exactly, and then at the end of the night, when it all filtered out, all of a sudden there's like a fairly hefty size hole in the fibro or whatever, the plasterboard. Yeah, so, and I was like, yeah, cool, no worries. So I turn up on the first night on the Friday, and I don't know, it's Bledisloe Cup or something's happening, and hardly anybody came out that night. So there's like 11 people at the bar. Definitely not busy enough for someone to quietly kick a hole in the wall without anyone noticing. Yeah. So I'm just sitting there at the end of the bar drinking my free Coke because obviously I had to be...
You're on duty. Yeah, you're like a doctor. You can't drink, or a pilot.
So he goes, well, can you come back tomorrow night? Yep, no worries. So I turn up the next night and he goes, a bit of a problem. 3 of our 5 or 6 bouncers have called in sick tonight. You're on the door. And I was like, what? I'm 18. What do I know about anything? But as it turned out, having grown up the way I did, I was quite able to spot who was drunk, who wasn't, who was underage, who wasn't, because I figured anyone younger than me was underage because I had been 18 for 3 months. So it was hilarious because all these girls were turning up. I'm like, you're below me. You were the year below me at school. You're not allowed in. Yeah. You're sitting like, oh, come on. And all of a sudden these girls had a free ride because, most bouncers don't pay attention to pretty girls in terms of their age. No. It's a long time ago. I'm sure it's far more sensible now, but a lot of girls are just
I remember sneaking into bars and pubs in Northern Beaches when I was underage.
Yeah, me too. That's how I'd known.
And it didn't seem to matter.
Yeah, I'd already been going into pubs and clubs for 4 years by the time I turned 18. So
in you go.
Off you go.
Off you go, champ. In you go.
Oh, look, you've made an effort to look older. In you go.
I did. I did myself up a bit. I don't bother with that anymore.
Yeah, so it turned out, bam, I was on the door, and then I'd been a bouncer for, I reckon, 8 years, and I loved it. Like, it was a great job. Live music, live bands, just great fun. And I used to work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday nights. Yeah. And then I was an accountant during the day, which is...
An accountant as well?
It's a weird combination.
Did you get an accountant licence, or how did you do that?
No, I got a diploma of accounting.
Oh, okay.
But...
so you're smart and tough.
Well, I don't know. I work hard. I don't know that I'm necessarily smart.
You know maths and that.
I totally know maths and stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what it is? I actually don't think I'm very good at maths. What I have is patterns really stand out to me. Oh. So if there's a whole page of numbers and there's one number that's throwing out, adding everything up or throwing out things balancing up, my brain just goes, it's that one. And I can't even tell you how or why, but I pick it every time.
Okay.
A little bit Rain Man. So I don't know if I'm smart or just a little bit special.
I can see the resemblance there. It's the shoes.
Thanks, lady.
Yeah.
I was a bouncer for 8 years when a mate of mine made me sign up to do stand-up comedy.
Right. So you had 3 things. You were working as an accountant, a bouncer, and then you started... an accountant during the day,
a bouncer at night,
exploring
and I started to do stand-up comedy. Yeah. And then when I started doing stand-up, I stayed being a bouncer for a while, maybe 18 months. And then I realised actually that I started to get really good gigs. I started to get booked quite quickly. I started to get paid quite quickly, which I was really
that's the key, isn't it, really?
And I went, well, let's see, I can get paid to stand up and tell jokes and be in actually no physical harm, or I can be paid to get punched in the face, or someone try and punch me in the face every other night. Like, I was breaking up full fist fights almost every night.
And that was men, it wasn't just
never
little nanas or anyone fighting?
Never women, always men.
Wow.
So, yeah, I was like, oh, what will I do? I think I'll take the talking for a living. Thank you very much. And it's funny because people, even now, even after I've been doing it 16 years, people still go, oh, you're so brave. And I go, what? They're like, oh, it must be so scary. I'm like, no. Telling an entire football team full of drunk idiots that they have to leave and you're the only security guard on, that's a little scary.
Yeah.
Or getting into a fight where 5 bikies want to fight 5 surfies and you're the one in the middle trying to break it up, and you can see your other guard, but he's on the other side of the fight, and you're hoping he's not getting the living life kicked out of him. That's a little scary. Standing up and telling jokes that I wrote that I know work, not even slightly scary.
No.
But I think perspective is quite amazing.
Yeah. So did you ever have to actually get people in headlocks and get them on the floor?
All the time. Not on the floor. You never, ever want to be on the floor in a pub fight because you will get the life kicked out of you. But, all the time you have to, because there's always, within a fight, there's an aggressor. Sometimes there's 2 aggressors, but there's always at least one. And what I often found was there'd be one bloke who just wanted to fight somebody. He'd pick on some tiny dude, or he'd pick on someone that didn't deserve it or wasn't looking for a fight, and that's when people get really hurt, when they're just like, mate, I don't want to fight you. And that was my job, to get there and drag the aggressor out before it really kicked off. Now, often there were 2 aggressors who wanted to fight each other. I used to let them punch for, I don't know,
till they were tired.
Yeah, I'd let them have like maybe 10 punches each. Just let them tucker themselves out a bit.
With the ref.
You don't want to get in the middle of 2 guys. It was funny. I always used to say you don't want to get in the middle of 2 brothers, 2 flatmates, or 2 best friends, because they're actually fighting about something. Some blokes like, that was my coin on the pool table. They're fighting because they think they should. Whereas people that have got a very close relationship, something has boiled over. There's something
lurking in the background.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, you just have to make sure other people don't get hurt, because often these fights spill over and things get knocked over and people get hurt. But I do remember one particular fight, 2 teammates were punching the living bits out of each other, and they almost knocked over the ATM.
Oh, no, like, that's how heavy.
Yeah, that's how hectic that was. So what I very often used to do is wait until they were just near a fire exit, and then just shove them both out the fire exit.
And close it.
Yeah, well, no, you'd have to go out and break it up after that. But to make sure that other people didn't get injured or property didn't get hurt, get broken, it was very handy that they would fight near a fire exit. So I would just rugby tackle them outside.
So there's also some psychology involved in reading the system, the scene and the fighting. And
I always, so you and I have spoken about my adrenaline. I make a lot of adrenaline just as a medical thing. It's just how I am. I've constantly coursing with adrenaline, and it made me quite a good bouncer, and it makes me quite a good comedian, because I can read tiny little micro movements. I can see, so back in bouncing days, I could see when someone was getting aggressive. I could see when they were building up to, like, very few people walk into a pub and just walk over and punch somebody. They sit there for a while and they stew on what's making them angry, and they get seething. Exactly, it escalates. You see them start like looking around to see who they're going to pick on, and you can spot that if you're paying attention.
Yeah.
And if you're able to, like, sometimes some of the clubs I worked at was so dark, and the DJ would have the strobe light on all the time. It's very hard to spot that sort of stuff when that's going on. But in an environment where there's a bit of light, I used to be able to go, that guy's about to kick off, and I'd go over and say, "You right, mate?" And they're like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Okay, rightio. Sometimes just them knowing that I'm watching you. Yeah, I've got a pretty good description of who you are now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make sure you don't hurt any of the people that have come out just to have a good night.
Yes.
So it's certainly that adrenaline helped in that regard. And then in terms of stand-up, when you're on stage, you can almost always see the audience. It's pretty rare to have the lights so bright in your eyes that you can't see anybody. But you can see if someone's uncomfortable with a joke you're telling, or if someone thinks they're going to heckle, or I can actually see, I can read their brain pattern, I can read their body language about what they're about to do. So if someone's going to heckle me, all I have to do really is make eye contact with them and go, "Isn't that right?" And you see them just go, "Woo!
Yeah, down boy."
Yeah, she saw me.
You're like the pack leader from Caesar Milan's Dog Whisperer. Yeah. No. And it's just the energy.
Yeah, well, very much so, because most people, and I'm sure that there are exceptions to all of these, but most people go along to a comedy night and they just get a little bit emboldened by hearing people that they've seen on telly or heard on the radio telling jokes. Everyone's laughing. Everyone's loving the person on stage because everyone's laughing. And they're like, I might just have a little bit of a crack at that. If I just say something to, if I just say something to this comedian, everyone will think I'm hilarious. Or I reckon I'm funnier than that person on stage, and I need everyone in the room to know that.
Yeah, yeah.
And you see them like just building up to a heckle, building up. And if you just shut them down before they get a chance, because it doesn't always have to be horrible. You don't always have to do that,
Yeah, because it can turn into sort of like fun banter as long as it doesn't.
It definitely
derail what you're doing.
But it can also turn into this combative, horrible, ruin everybody's night kind of that sort of thing. So it's interesting to see how. And if I'm telling a particular style of joke or about a particular subject matter, and I can see, someone getting uncomfortable, well, I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable.
No.
So I can tailor it off to somewhere else, or if that person's just being a bit precious, I can go particularly hard because they've annoyed me. Because I'm a horrible person.
Because you can. Because you have the microphone and the authority.
As I like to say, I've got the magic talkie stick.
Wow. Yeah. So there's psychology involved in pretty much everything you do, which is interesting that you decided to study it.
Yeah. I just have to pick a major now. I'm not sure. I'm sort of into my third year now, and I have to sort of start specialising. And I find.
What are your options of doing? What majors can you do?
Well, I can move into sports psychology, which, having played sport for New South Wales.
And not just playing, she was the women's captain of the first New South Wales NRL side that became the champions. Thanks NRL. Very much. NFL. Yeah. Sorry. Whoops.
But yeah, so it's like that's available to me to do sports psychology.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. I don't know about that. Or I've had quite a few friends suicide over the years, so I would like to move into suicide prevention or working with youth at risk.
Yes.
I had a lovely encounter with a gentleman after a gig at the Manly Boat Shed, actually, and his name was Harvey Milkman.
Yeah.
Who came over to me after the gig, and he was this really one of those really loud American voices, that real stereotypical. Like New York Jewish man, that, oh my God, one of those voices, which I honestly, everything I know about American culture I know through TV, so I thought that was a made up stereotype. When he started talking, I'm like, oh my God, you really exist.
Yeah.
You really exist. This is amazing.
Yeah.
So he came over to me and he said, my wife died 6 months ago. And I was like, oh man, I'm so sorry. And he goes, that's the first time I've laughed in 6 months. You just made me laugh so hard I had tears streaming down my face.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. And I went, that... To me, one thing's getting paid at the end of your gig. That's lovely that, you're being paid to do what you love.
Yeah.
But to have someone say, and you get them every now and then, compliments. Like there was a lady that I saw that I performed in front of over in King's Cross, and she came over to me afterwards and said, oh, Julia, I enjoyed that so much. And I was like, oh, cool, thanks very much. Thanks for coming along. She goes, no. She said, I have cancer all through my body. I am racked with pain 24 hours a day, and you just made me laugh for 25 minutes. I laughed so hard that I didn't have pain in one single part of my body. You have no idea what a big deal that is. And I was like, I was like, don't cry. I'm like, thank you very much for saying that. Like that's a huge,
That's making a difference in someone's day.
Yeah, there's compliments and then there's compliments. That was lovely. So this gentleman said, my wife passed away, and he said to me, have you got time for a coffee tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, sure, because like I said, when I turned 18 and I got all those licenses, I don't want anything to be off the table. So when people go, I've got an idea to write a book, or I've got an idea for a thing, have you got time for a coffee? I always go, yep. I want to see where it goes. I have to see.
Yeah, you're open to life.
I'm so curious about everything.
What's going on?
Exactly. I'm like, oh my God, what's the proposal here? And also, I'm a massive unit and I'm a pretty good fighter. So the worst case scenario is that someone says something dodgy and I go, I could punch you right in the face right now. I think maybe you should jog.
Get you in a headlock.
Exactly. So
up against the wall.
It's quite lovely to be fearless in that regard. So when this guy said, can you meet me for a coffee? I went and met him the next day, and it turns out he's not just a psychologist, but he's a psychology lecturer who's written a bunch of books about working with youth at risk in juvenile detention centres.
Yeah.
So in America, it's a very well-selling book, and they use it in all of the juvenile jails to keep kids out of gangs and away from drugs and from suiciding.
Yeah.
And I went, that sounds amazing. And he said, I'd love for you to go and get qualified and come and work with me. And I said, well, you just saw me do. It was a Christmas showcase. I said, you just saw me do 5 minutes of rude jokes. Like,
how does that translate to what you want me to do?
And he said that room was so rough and so loud, and in just 30 seconds you got everyone's attention and you made them shut up and listen to you. He said, I looked around the room while you were on and every single person was paying attention. He said, that's what I need if you're going to be dealing with kids at risk of killing themselves and overdosing on drugs and getting into gangs and killing other people. You need someone that has a physical presence on stage that can get their attention.
Yeah.
And he said, is there any chance you'd like to maybe go and do a degree? And I said, well, I'm actually already studying philosophy, but he said, would you like to transfer over to psychology? Wow. So I went, okay. So I transferred from philosophy, which I was doing because I just love reading about philosophers. And, and it's you're
interested in things like Buddhism and interesting.
It's a real, things. It's, and I'm well aware of the fact that it's a lovely luxury to live in a country where you can study stuff like that.
Yes.
I think we're moving towards why are you studying that if it's not going to lead to a job, but we're still in a current climate where you can study things as long as you're happy to pay for it. You can still study things that just you want to learn.
That's it.
So I was doing philosophy and I transferred over to psychology, and so I've been doing a lot of Indigenous modules, which I thoroughly love, and I'm going to try and learn the local Northern Beaches dialect. I want to learn a language, so I'm trying to find someone to teach me the local language, which I think...
If anyone's listening who can help Julia Wilson...
please get in touch.
Please contact Shazza's Laughter Hour through Facebook, Instagram or Twitter, and we'll put you in touch with Julia Wilson.
I would love that. That would make me happy. So, I kind of have to decide where I'm going to move with the psychology. I think I will... And Harvey, the gentleman I was talking about, said, you stay and take care of your dad for as long as you need to, but this is what I do.
So did he go back to the US?
Yeah, and we keep in contact. And every now and then he'll say, send me...
How's your studies?
Yeah, send me what you're working on, and he'll proofread what I'm working on and that sort of stuff. He's a really lovely guy. And I, of course, at the time I was like, sure you're a well-published author. Yeah, sure you're a psychology lecturer. Then I went home and Googled him. I'm like, oh, wow, he really is.
He really was.
Okay, right, nice ones. Because I would sit and happily have coffee with anyone in the world because everyone's got a story that I just
everyone does have a story.
Dying to hear.
Yeah.
I love that. That's one of my I don't think we've touched on it, but I worked for the Arts Health Institute for quite a lot of years playing ukulele and doing play up for dementia patients.
Oh, yes.
And I loved that job.
Yeah.
And I had to give it away when Dad got proper sick, just because I couldn't fit it into my week. But it was such a lovely job to go along. So I'd go in a fez and a big double-breasted maroon jacket, so I'd look like almost like a hotel kind of concierge, so that the elders would realise that you weren't a doctor or a nurse, but you also weren't some weirdo off the street who's now singing at them and being a weirdo. And it was like it was a little bit of psychology, but there was an awful lot of private detecting skills. You'd walk into their room and you have 10 to 12 minutes with each elder on a one-on-one basis, and you had to work out just by what was around you in the room how to connect with them, whether it was through singing, whether it was through poetry, whether it was through just ballroom dancing, whether it was through props. Like, you just had to go in and find some way of connecting with them. And dementia is such that, just because playing a song worked last week doesn't mean it's going to work this week. And every time I say that I have a dementia job, someone goes, you only have to learn the one joke. And they just get a deadpan face from me every time. I'm like, that's
they don't understand what it does involve.
Yeah, exactly. Because dementia...
You did training for that, didn't you?
Yeah, we did.
Specific training.
Yeah, it was really helpful because it's quite confronting. People don't spend a lot of time thinking about how they're going to age and how they're going to be when they get to that level. And it's definitely made me take a little bit better care of my overall health.
Because that's going to be you one day.
For sure. And I don't have kids and I'm not having them. So there'll be... The people who decide which home I'm going into will be my friends' kids and my little nieces and nephews. So you're like, hey, kiddos, guess who loves Auntie Julia? I just took one of them kayaking on Sunday for her birthday. And
remember this.
I am. I'm like...
And I'm 80.
And the other one was, for her birthday, she wanted to do the high ropes up at Taronga Park Zoo, where you're tied to the ropes and you have to go across all these weird little obstacle courses 10 metres above the earth. And both their mum and dad went, nope, not doing that. And I was like, I'll do it. And every time I always get, thanks, Auntie Julia, that was amazing. I go, yeah, you remember this. You remember this when Auntie Julia's...
Put it in the diary.
Yeah, exactly, not doing so well, not as strong as she once was.
Yeah.
So, the dementia job I loved. I really enjoyed that. But it taught me a lot about how the brain works, how the brain communicates, how the brain degenerates when the time comes. So I am enjoying that aspect of psychology as well. So that's another avenue that's open to me to deal with.
There are some preventative measures they're talking about nowadays, but I don't know if that can completely reverse it.
It also, preventative measures work to a certain degree if you're not genetically predisposed to things.
Yeah.
And if you are, then there are some medical interventions that they can hand. But, you know, the best thing that any of us can do for our brain is to stay active.
Stay active, stay involved with the community.
Absolutely. Have connections.
Keep busy, volunteer if you've retired.
Yeah.
I think also circulation to the brain in the form of exercise and deep breathing and also I had activity.
One of my little old ladies from my volunteer job that I had for such a long time, she said to me one day, when I'd first started playing gridiron, I was covered in bruises, and she said, "What have you done to yourself?" And I said, "Oh, I've taken up a new sport, and I'm kind of copping a bit of flack because everyone thinks I'm going to get injured." And she said, "Well, you know what? You tell them all to go to hell." And I went, "Really?" She goes, "Yep." She actually said, "Tell them to stick it up their bum."
Oh,
and I was like,
goodness.
When a 92-year-old lady tells you that you're allowed to tell people to stick it up their bum,
you can do it.
I reckon I'm emboldened to do that.
So that was a volunteer job you were doing?
Yeah, and I went, what do you mean? She said, "You know what? You know what kills old ladies?" And I thought, I'm not getting into this conversation.
No.
And I went, she said, "Osteoporosis." She said, "Old blokes just have heart attacks and die. Old women have a fall, break a hip, and all of a sudden you're not allowed to live in your own home anymore. You're not allowed to drive anymore.
Bedridden.
Or, all of a sudden you're in an aged care facility or you can't get out of bed. And if you can't keep talking to people and you can't move around, it slips away very quickly. So you stay as strong as you can be for as long as you can be and tell everyone else, if they don't like it, to stick it up their bum." And I went,
"That's brilliant."
That's what I was like. She's 92.
Did she live at home or did you pick her up from somewhere?
Yeah, so I used to pick her up and take her shopping.
And how did you get into the volunteering?
Actually, I tried to get Dad to find a hobby because he'd retired and he was bored. I was like, "Come on, Dad, go and get a volunteer job." And he's like, "What?" So I went, "Come on, I'll do it with you." So we went along and volunteered for Manly Warringah Pittwater Community Aid. And, so we were just near where Northern Beaches radio is.
Up in Terry Hills?
No, it's where Northern Beaches Radio started, sorry.
Yes, yeah.
And so they, I forgot to take the phone off the hook.
That's all right. It's just the phone. Never mind, you won't worry about that.
So we used to pick people up and take them to medical appointments, or we would take them shopping, or they would give us a shopping list and we would go shopping for them.
So would you go and register for that and they would give you information?
Yeah, they'd find your clients. Yeah, so we had to have police checks and they'd give us an ID card so that when we went to the elder's house that, the elder knew that we'd been checked out and that everything was kosher in that regard.
So with this, was it just elderly people or anyone who's bedridden?
Anyone that was not able to get out, anyone that was, infirmed in any way or was suffering a disability and it wasn't covered by any of the other facilities that were available.
Yeah.
So it was. I really enjoyed that job actually.
That's a great thing. What was their name again?
Manly Warringah Pittwater Community Aid.
Okay, so if you have some time on your hands, you're retired or you're wanting to get back into the workforce, to just do something that is a really useful community thing.
And they also do, apart from actual hands-on driving and that sort of thing, there's also like community. Just keep in touch. So you phone the person that's on your list. Once a week or once a fortnight, or you pop around and have a cup of tea, or just to keep, because I think the sense of community is what slips away quite quickly.
Yeah, that's right.
And loneliness is such a horrible thing. And loneliness, it's interesting, with me being so busy, it's great if I get a night to myself when there's no one else at home and it's just me. That is as rare as hen's teeth.
Yeah.
But, people, please. But, but the idea that... that's how you are every single night and you have no control over that.
Yeah.
Well, that's really quite debilitating and will, is not great for your mental health.
Yeah, that's it. And loneliness can lead to all sorts of feelings of isolation. And
which anxiety,
not caring
and depression.
for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not getting out and about.
And not getting out and about is not really something I have to worry about. I'm quite lucky. I'm out,
so
most
you
nights.
Enjoy having a night in or some time to relax.
It's like gold. If I get a night in a spa bath, with some Epsom salts, maybe a nice glass of red.
Oh, lovely. Or a cup of tea.
Or a cup of tea when I'm not trying to...
Depending on what your situation is at the time.
Oh, you got to love it. Well, thank you so much for having me on, Shaz.
Yes. Well, thank you for being on Shazza's Laughter Hour on Radio Northern Beaches.
Nice, thank you,
It's been a very, very interesting conversation, and Julia is a very interesting person. She's kind, she's tough, but she's kind. She's
it's the
fair.
best kind of tough to be.
Yes. She looks after herself, And what else do you do to keep fit and well? Do you go walking?
Lots of walking, lots of gym stuff.
Yeah.
I did yoga.
That's good for bone density as women getting older, isn't it?
Absolutely.
In regards to osteoporosis and all that sort of thing.
So I did lift lots of really, and I'm so competitive and I'm competitive with myself more than anyone else in the world, where if I'm lifting, 90 kilos today, well, I'd better be lifting 95 next week. Like it's I push myself quite a long way.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I see other people in the gym competing with each other. Like they'll see someone pick up a 40-kilo weight and they're like, pfft. So they'll go over and pick up a 50-kilo weight. I'm like, I don't know why you're watching other people train. Just do your own thing. But that's me. I'm competitive with myself more than anything else.
Yeah.
So I do lots of weights. With this ACL, I'm doing lots of being on a stationary bike, which is driving me crazy because you don't go anywhere. I feel like it's a metaphor for life. Where if you're not setting goals,
to music or look at TV or
I listen
something?
to music really loud. I love old school punk and hard Australian rock. And, that sort of stuff. So I listen to American punk. I listen to a lot of.
What would be one of your favourite old kind of Australian bands or singers?
Oh, you know what? Colin Hay I love. That's not particularly hardcore stuff, but I love his singer-songwriting stuff.
Yes.
I absolutely loved Cold Chisel and the Angels and the Hoodoo Gurus.
Oh, yeah.
And Screaming Jets. I loved those guys. So AC/DC is very high up in my playlist.
Yes.
And it's just music that people go, God, I haven't heard this for 100 years. I'm like, yeah, I know. Yeah, I listened to it yesterday.
Yeah.
It's like, I love that sort of stuff.
Stands the test of time.
It really does. And, I'm teaching, one of my little nieces is learning the drums, so I'm teaching her to listen for different music that she wants to learn how to play the drums to. So I'm like, listen to this. The little nephew's learning guitar, and at the moment he's learning arpeggios, and he's like, I don't know what that is. I'm like, come listen to Metallica. Here we go. There's an arpeggio in this song. Like I enjoy doing that aspect of it.
You're a real educator. Philosopher, psychologist, bouncer, iron woman, comedian, all rolled into one.
Carer.
And a carer. Carer to Bob. Cherishing your times with your father.
With my good old Pa.
Good old Bobbo. Well, we're going to wrap up our wonderful interview today with my very special guest, Julia Wilson.
Thank you so much, Shaz.
So are you gigging around Manly
I am,
Ringa?
all over the place. You can find me on Facebook. I tend not
Yeah.
to keep the website updated because...
Yeah, check out all the Northern Beaches gig guides for music, and also check out Desire Books and Records down at Manly.
Lovely. Thanks for having me.
Julia, bye! Yay!
So once again, a very special thank you to my guest this week, Julia Wilson. And stay tuned next week, Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m, here at Radio Northern Beaches, 88.7 or 90.3 FM, for another fun-filled episode of Shazza's Laughter Hour. Until then, have a happy, healthy, laughing week.